Hello, everybody. Uh, Welcome to today. What I'm going to be looking at here is looking at the state of SEO in 2024. I get a lot of questions about how should I optimize my website? Should I focus on SEO? What are the tricks, tips I should be focusing on? I think there's a step before that we need to look at, which is what are you expecting and what are the actual realities of search engine optimization right now? Um, the recruitment space, the recruitment marketing space is just hyper competitive, right? And the weird thing about this space is that recruitment agencies, they really aren't actually competing for the most part against other recruitment agencies. They're competing against job boards and things like the DWP Gov website, which is very, very authoritative website. And it's really difficult to rank. And so what I've got here today is what I'm going to run through is just the realities of that, um, and maybe some ideas, things that you could try to try and drive some traffic into your website. Couple of things we're going to think about ahead of this. Number one, we're going to look at clients and candidates today. There is a crossover in some of those areas, as you'll probably see as we go through this, but we're going to look specifically at clients and candidates. We're going to look at some benchmarking to begin with, just in terms of what actual not what SEO is. This is not for you. If you don't know what SEO is, this is not not for you this session. But looking at just the practicalities of click-through rates and how page one is not what page one used to be of Google and how it has changed so much. And thirdly, I have a cold, so apologies for this. I'm trying to stay hydrated. It's summer in the UK and I have a cold. It's just typical. So let me jump straight in here and let's have a look at the first point, which I talked about, which is what page one of Google actually is these days and just some realities around that. So I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to look at a couple of different kind of variations of a screen here. So this is looking at finance jobs in Liverpool. So this is kind of what you traditionally look at as like a candidate search term. I think would probably be like a fair way of looking at that or thinking about it. Finance jobs in, it's got that kind of intent. What you can see straight away, we've got this Google for Jobs search results. So this traditionally might have been where like the paid results come. Sometimes you do see like paid results that appear above this, and then you get this kind of push down on here. And then we kind of are into what people think of as like the organic the organic feed here. So Indeed, we've got some LinkedIn stuff going on here, total jobs, another Indeed post. Not really. We've got a recruitment agency down here, Michael Page personnel down here as well for this. So just some stats for you just to think about. This role here, this first kind of result, the average click-through rate, and I've looked at a bunch of different stats around this. I've kept this up to date for years, but it's about 28% of the clicks will go to this here, and it drops off significantly. The click-through rate CTR drops significantly, 10 to 8, about the same click-through rate, and position 1 and 10, you get about 10 times more clicks on position 1 than you will across position 10. So it is huge, the drop off. And you're sharing this with other things here, like the Google search engine, which literally takes people off the Google search into the Google for Jobs engine. So all of a sudden your organic rankings are kind of finished at that point. Some cool things here. You see some direct employers here that are actually going on in here as well. So it goes to show that actually optimizing for Google Jobs is a pretty important thing also. But yeah, what you can see here is that they are, it's tough pickings, right? You're competing with some pretty big companies. We're going to take a bit more in-depth look at that in a second. And then secondly, I've done like a finance recruitment agency, Liverpool. I think this is more of a kind of maybe client candidate crosses over, that type of search. We got a completely wild different set of things going on here. So we have these find results on Yell. It's like a structured data thing that Google do. We have the business results, which is definitely for like locale based searches. It's still huge. It tends to rank by like top rated. Like the star ratings are so important there, and how complete that account actually is is a really important thing, but it takes up a lot of real estate. I hovered that and it kind of expanded it out. So it takes a huge amount of real estate. And again, you click more business, you go out the organic results. But actually, we get a very different set of results, right? We start to see Robert Walters. We didn't see them before. Agency Central, CF, some more kind of localized great recruiters that exist, in this area here in Liverpool where I'm based. But this is a very different set of results. But again, the actual drop off through click through is going to be very different between position 1 and position 10. Something that I noticed here, there is no pay-per-click against some of this, or at least Google are not presenting pay-per-click. There could be an opportunity there for people to start to try and get some of that click, especially if you're not currently ranking page 1 or 2. You might want to consider maybe putting some money into like a really hyper-specific search term there. But hopefully that gives everyone a bit of an understanding about what actual page 1 is and the realities of the click-through rates, which is really important for what we're going to look at here. So what I've done is I've kind of prepared a little bit of information just to kind of scroll through and give you a vibe for how the search engines currently are being dominated or not in some cases. Going to be looking at it. So I use Ahrefs for this, but you could use any tool that you're comfortable with to kind of do some of this type of research. What I've done is I actually did this with ChatGPT. I put ChatGPT, please add the city onto jobs in for every city in the UK. So I've got a list here of jobs in Aberdeen, Chester, Lincoln, all the way through a bunch of different areas. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into the Keyword Explorer here in Ahrefs. And I'm going to put all my keywords in. Right, so I'm going to drop all of these keywords. There's quite a lot of them in here. And this is just jobs in. You should be able to see that. And I'm going to search these on here. This is going to give me all of this. It's going to give me the search volumes on a monthly basis. So jobs in London. It should be noted that sometimes, and we will see this, I guarantee we will see this, sometimes the search volume is just really low, like sub 10 searches per month. These are estimates. No one has the exact figures because we're not Google. But what I want to look at is the traffic share by domain. And this should be quite striking. So it's looked across all of these different search terms. I think it was 70 keywords I put in there. And you can see the actual traffic share ownership. 71% of that traffic is going to Indeed. Then we've got 13% of that, which is going straight through to the DWP. So that's 84% of traffic going through to 2 websites. And then we have Read that comes in here. So that's 91% of the traffic is actually being split between 3 websites from all of those keywords, which means that the rest of us, mere mortals, are trying to compete for maybe 9% of the traffic. And if you just take a glance here, a lot of these are gov.uk, like localized websites that are going to appear next and pick up the next type of rankings after Indeed. There is a huge amount of it, absolutely huge amount of this type of stuff that is taken up here. We're not seeing really any recruitment agencies here, at all. I might miss while I'm scrolling through this, but there is noticeably no recruitment agencies, whereas we had seen that on like the recruitment agencies in. So this is the high volume stuff, right? This is the real kind of, these are the keywords you want to get, because I guess that's where the volume is. 14,000 searches for jobs in London on a monthly basis, and that is clearly being dominated. So I guess tip number 1 is don't expect to rank for that type of stuff. If you do, like, well done. What we want to look at now is I thought we'd maybe specialize this down a little bit, away from just the higher level stuff. So I'm going to look at things like finance jobs in. If we have a look at this, I've done the same thing again. Finance jobs in location. Let's put this in. Let's look at the domain share. Some of these I guarantee, some of these don't have any real volume. Like there isn't a huge amount of volume. Doesn't mean it's not competitive. Just means there's not a huge amount of search volume. And in itself, that's indicative of your expectations. If the search volume is low, you shouldn't really expect to get a huge amount back from that. Not saying it won't work, but I'm just saying you're not going to get a huge amount back from that. Then what we can see here is, again, okay, the share is different, but it's still quite striking, right? So this is the longer tail, as we'd say. So rather than just being jobs in, it's finance job in. I'd say that's more like sector or specialism, discipline type of job searches that we got here. So again, 35% is Indeed. So what we got here, 48, 7. I reckon we're somewhere close to 90+% being taken up by these websites. So again, we now have actually a few agencies in here, but they're not small agencies, right? They're large agencies. We've got Michael Page in here, Page Personnel. We've got Robert Walters that appear here. The job board in there. But again, it's no like localized agencies. I'd say there's not a lot of localized agencies here that are doing really well. And I think the ones that are doing well are probably top 10, top 20 UK agencies that exist in here. Again, this is a expectation management, I suppose, which is sure you should definitely still optimize for it. You might start to pick up traffic for it because I do know locationally Google do promote certain websites over others. That absolutely does happen. But we shouldn't be saying, hey, we just started up a business and I think we're going to rank on page one. That's not going to happen. And any agency, even as an established agency, plus 10 heads, been around for a number of years, had a website, maybe optimized it. Again, this is a long-term strategy, right? This type of keyword is for me. I would not put any real targeting around that or goals or financial metrics around that internally about how we could rank from that. This is 2 to 3 years minimum, like 2 to 3 years with consistent effort before you'll probably see any real return from this in terms of candidate applications. If you see it before it, well done. Like, well done. Like I'm not the god of Google, but from my experience, I would say that this is still quite competitive stuff. So then I thought, I think something for us to look at. I work in the digital sector, so it's good for me. Like how we might be able to look at more specific search terms. So I looked at things like PPC manager, pay-per-click manager jobs. And what I found is the minute we started getting down into the weeds of the jobs, actually just the search volume isn't huge. It's not really there. I'm not saying this for all jobs, by the way, right? I think if we did this with customer success, maybe we'd see a different result. Customer success again is a specialism for me. It's not. It's like the same as finance. It's when we get into we could go finance, we could go ACCA jobs in London. The search volume generally isn't really there, and I think that's important to note. Again, that if you want to optimize for those types of jobs, it's still going to be really competitive, and the search volume isn't huge for them. If I look here and go like PPC manager jobs in Liverpool, and we just look where I am right now, I get the Google jobs, but again, it's Indeed, it's Total Jobs, it's Reed, it's Glassdoor. We've got We Are Adam, which is brilliant actually for them to be in there. I think that's cool. But in general, they're not going to be a huge amount of clicks coming through. There's definitely going to be clicks, and it's definitely part of a wider strategy, I'm sure, for these agencies. But we shouldn't expect that just because we get page one, or because we're competing against these people, it's going to be high volume conversions, or that it will convert. Right? If it goes to the website and it's not very good, it's not going to convert at all. So, the job search doesn't work, or there's no jobs for it, then we've got a problem, haven't we? If the website isn't set up to deal with that kind of stuff. So what you can see here is from these types of keywords, it's hyper competitive. And again, I think that SEO is so difficult for recruitment agencies, and I temper any expectations that unless you're a very large agency, which there isn't a huge amount, we tend to work with bigger agencies, but I wouldn't expect to just dominate, right? Firstly, and I wouldn't expect anything really. And I think that's good, right? If you start to get stuff and you haven't expected, then that's cool. We can start to see a bit of a change when we start to think about that second sentiment, which moved away from the kind of candidate side of things, for me anyway, into the more direct side of things, into the B2B, maybe like client acquisition. It still will work for clients. So I did the same for recruitment agencies around the same type of search for this. Again, there's some low search volume areas here. But actually, you can start to see a very different landscape. Firstly, Indeed are not in this landscape, right? That would be the first thing that we look at here, right? Our top result here is Reed. I think everyone can see that. Reed, Michael Page, Robert Half, Agency Central, Morgan Hunt, Blue Arrow, Side note, a bunch of SourceFlow customers here on these pages, but there is no Indeed, right? That is appearing on this page, and I think that kind of speaks volumes in itself. Of this is a very different sentiment and a different target, right? Indeed has its own strategy. It doesn't present itself as a recruitment agency, right? Currently, promotes itself as that. So I think that's cool. I think there's opportunity here for us to kind of jump into this and start to think about how we could perform in an area there. And if I cut all of this out from here, if I just put recruitment agency in Liverpool, and we just run it as a singular term, there is a very different set of results by locale that we're going to look at here, and how that works. And Ahrefs, there's a bunch of different products. They'll give an understanding of keyword difficulty or the amount of search. So it might be only 50 searches that you're competing for here. Again, might be quite a low amount, but you can see there are other things that might be up for grabs here, which you might be able to compete against rather than just the job searches. And I think this is the opportunity level, really. It's looking for how can we break into an area where it's not dominated by the job boards or by Indeed, but actually pound per pound, we're going up against other recruitment agencies in our area and what we can do about that. We saw different results on the Google for Jobs listings. We saw different results on the Google My Business listings. We're seeing kind of a more attainable set of results for the kind of recruitment agencies in. If I wanted to specialize this down again, have I got this still open here? If I went down to like finance recruitment agency, I think that's what we started with in here, rather than just recruitment agency. And again, I get a different set of results, kind of more specialist set of results. That's definitely stuff that's kind of 6-12 months. We're not talking 2, 3, 4, maybe 100 years for some of those keywords. I think this is the type of attainable stuff that really, as a marketer or as a business owner in the recruitment space, that we can be looking at trying to optimize a little bit better for. I'd say that's kind of the more attainable stuff here. In terms of other areas where you could start to kind of think about this, with all of these results, there was hardly any ads that actually appeared for this kind of stuff. I think Ahrefs has like an ads history here, and it looks there's not a huge amount of people bidding on these types of terms. And I think, okay, this is moving slightly away from the SEO side of things, but if we're talking traffic and demand gen, there is always, I feel, locally a very specific campaign to be run. And yeah, the volume isn't going to be huge, right? But it's all adding up, right? It is all adding up. And I would look at it that way and think, how can we build kind of a wider breadth of traffic in there? So I think that's a really important thing to actually think about. I wouldn't stop creating content or optimizing my website is another thing to just say here. And I would create lots of like FAQ and more specialized content for each of the individual areas that you worked in. I would have landing pages on my website for the areas. I think I did a previous AI webinar where I talked about creating SEO strategies using AI. I think that's still valid. And I think that creating relevant content and refreshed content around the different types of roles that you might require have. So finance manager jobs in Liverpool have information about the types of roles you hire for, maybe placements, obviously jobs, latest content, that's renewable content on those pages. Keeping those types of pages constantly refreshed, I think that is a strategy in itself. And I would really consider that as a strategy to be in there. Obviously, we've seen with so many Google updates, focus heavily on the user experience. It's not just one thing, kind of ranking. You want to make sure that the actual, the usage of the website, the amount of click-throughs that kind of stay on websites from Google searches, that's a key thing as well. So make sure that where they go, i.e. your website, is fully optimized for that user experience as well. If you are sending people to landing pages that don't have jobs on them, have a way of converting, because that, again, is going to push people through the website. They're not just going to bounce on that page because there's nothing for them to do. So think about that as well. That would be something that I'd look at. And then there is another reality, which is that still links are massive on Google. Backlinks are still huge, right? I had a look at Indeed. They've got it's like 13 million backlinks that they have. They have a domain authority of like 92 of 100. It's right up there, right? And that is a huge part of why they rank so well. A lot of the times with localized SEO, you're dealing with websites that aren't as authoritative. And that's something where if you start to build your backlink profile from local media, from clients maybe that you work with, those types of places, you'll definitely start to see results. You'll see your rankings generally lift. Your page 2 becomes a bottom of page 1 type of thing. It's something that you see quite consistently. So I would still focus on the fundamentals, definitely, of SEO. I think what I would just advise is more kind of a tempered expectation around SEO as much as anything, and how that works. So hopefully this has become useful for people. I tried to just make this a kind of informal vlog here, just to kind of give people my views on things. I think just generally the fundamentals don't change. SEO is one component of a omni-channel approach, right? Your social media, you've got your video content. We should be promoting that heavily. You've got your SEO content, you've got your on-page web content, your FAQs, you've got the user experience of the platform, your website that you're kind of launching from and posting your jobs and all that kind of good stuff as well. So the SEO is just one part of it, but it's a hyper competitive market. It really is. And if you're being sold this or you're speaking to people and like, hey, we can get you page 1 ranking for jobs in, I think that's going to be tough. I think it's going to be really, really difficult, if not impossible, to actually go and do that. So yeah, thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. And yeah, stay tuned for the next one. Goodbye.